meaningful.
Exactly. And to really solidify those skills, take, for instance, those pesky phrasal verbs, give up, put off. They're everywhere in English, and they can be incredibly confusing because their meaning isn't always literal.
It's like trying to decipher a secret code sometimes, especially if you're trying to translate them directly from your native language.
And speaking of translations, that was another point they brought up, how relying too heavily on direct translations can really trip learners up.
Yeah, it's like trying to fit square blocks into round holes. It doesn't quite work, does it?
Not quite. You end up with something that's, well, not quite right.
Definitely not ideal. So instead of translating word for word, it's about training your brain to start thinking in English.
Uh,
But that's easier said than done, right?
Absolutely. It's a process. And part of that process is bridging that gap between classroom learning and actual real life fluency.
It's like you can practice your swimming strokes in the pool all day long, but until you actually dive into the ocean, you're not really experiencing the full force of the currents, the waves.
Exactly. But it's natural to feel intimidated.
It can feel like that moment right before you hit publish on your first blog post or share something really personal on social media. You're excited, but also a little terrified, right?
Absolutely. You're putting yourself out there.
Exactly. So how did our experts recommend getting over that hurdle, that fear of actually using the language in real life?
They're all about finding those low-pressure practice opportunities, places where you can experiment and make mistakes without feeling judged.
So it's about giving yourself permission to mess up, to be a beginner.
Exactly. And the beauty is there are so many ways to do that these days. Language cafes, online conversation groups, language exchange apps.
Okay, tell me more about those.
Yeah.
What do they recommend?
They specifically mention HelloTalk and italki as being really user-friendly and effective. It's like having a conversation buddy right there in your pocket.
That's a great way to think about it. Someone who gets